Richard Branson is the founder of the Virgin Group and is listed by Times Magazine as one of the most influential people in the world. He went from struggling with dyslexia as a kid, being told by his headmaster on the last day of school that he would either end up in prison or become rich, to becoming an entrepreneur at 16 and a billionaire with a net worth of $4.1 billion. Need motivation?
What's your top 10 with the Billionaire Nation?
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like nine and a nine. For my top 10, top 10, nine and a nine. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person that you know, but you also know that you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Richard Branson, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Live life to the fullest.
One time when you were doing hot air ballooning, you weren't sure whether you would survive.
With the ballooning adventures, I was doing something that that nobody had done before. I was trying to fly across the Atlantic or the Pacific or go around the world in a balloon. I was flying at 40,000 feet in the jet stream, with one other person, Per Lindstrand, and the technology was completely unproven. We were the test pilots.
That was more dangerous.
Things could go wrong, and they did go wrong.
But you set a number of Guinness World Records for that. But in hindsight, do you have any regrets about taking those risks on the hot air balloon?
It's interesting. My son and daughter now are setting themselves big adventures every year, dragging their dad along on some of them. And I think as a family, we feel live life to its full, and you can die in a road accident, you can die on just a normal bike ride, and quite often when you're actually completely focused on an adventure, it's less likely in some way that you're going to die in an adventure, because you're ready and sharp and know how to deal with it.
Rule number 2, turn your passion into a business.
What advice would you give someone who's wondering, like, how do I find my passion, and how do I pull on these threads, and where are they going to lead to? Help us understand how you got started and how they should think about it.
Well, I think, most people listening to this show know what their passion is, and it could be a hobby, it could be they could love reading, they could love playing tennis, they'll have passions, and if you have a passion, it makes sense to spend a lot of your life involved in that passion, and quite often you can turn your passion into a business. You can see that maybe there's some aspect of your passion that people are not doing that well, and you can say, screw it, I could do it better, and I think if you spend your life with your eyes open, looking for things that frustrate you, looking for gaps in the market, that's all a business is. It's fulfilling that, filling in a gap and doing it better than it's been done by anybody else, people who don't have closed minds will most likely find those opportunities. Now, I suspect there will be 100 people who will have come up with that idea before you, but those 100 people, won't have had the courage just to go and do something about it. So, so it's those few people who just say, right, I'm going to give it a go, that often end up, being successful.
Rule number 3, focus on the details.
We set up 3 airlines, Virgin Australia, Virgin America, and Virgin Atlantic, and they've all been very successful, and they've been successful. I think, most businesses are successful because of the people, but the people only excel if you give them the tools to do a great job, and if they feel loved.
Sure.
And so I think what was critical in Virgin Atlantic was that every single little detail was right. So we were the first airline to introduce seat-back videos, and 5 years before British Airways. And kids who travelled on Virgin would not let their parents travel on any other airline because they wanted seat-back videos. And we had stand-up bars for upper-class passengers, and I'm sure lots of romances started at our
Upper-class bars.
And we're not the kind of airline that banged on lavatory doors either. So, so anyway, we were a fun airline.
Rule number 4, surround yourself with great people.
When you're a business leader, if you're a business leader, somebody's watching this and wants to be Richard Branson or Sir Richard Branson, what is the key?
Surrounding yourself with great people, learning to delegate early on, not trying to do everything yourself, making sure you've got the kind of people that are praising the team around them, not criticizing the people, and having people who are willing to really innovate, be bold, and create something which everybody who works for the company can be really proud of.
Also, if you want to be surrounded with billionaires every day, check out my 254 series. It's free. The link to join is in the description below.
Most of the best entrepreneurial ideas come out of frustration.
Rule number 5, be a good delegator.
My dyslexia really helped me become a really good delegator, and I think that's been one of my great strengths. So I've had to find brilliant people around me over the last 50 years in all the different ventures we've done, and be willing to give them a lot of freedom, freedom to do good things and freedom to make mistakes, and by and large it's worked, and that's freed me up to worry about
the next Hyperloop one.
Well, the next projects, but also just to look after oneself, and spend time with one's family, and be ready to troubleshoot when something goes wrong. So not to get bogged down by the minutiae. And I think the best bit of advice I can give any entrepreneur is, find somebody better than yourself. Give them the freedom to, step into your shoes, and then, clear the decks yourself, and all those things that you were doing, hand over to them, and then you'll find very quickly, that the desk will be full up with new ideas, which you can then hand over again, and you can keep doing that, and then you can become, a serial philanthropist as well as a serial entrepreneur.
Rule number 6, have a good attitude.
I always remember a wonderful person on reception in Canada just having a fantastic attitude, and that person's gone on to run companies, just from their personality and their attitude. When we had a record label, the artists with the great attitude, like Peter Gabriel, all the staff wanted to work hard to make them a success. The artists with a bad attitude, people just didn't want to spend the time and effort working on their work. So, attitude can work. Work whatever you're doing in life. Attitude can play a very important part.
Rule number 7, learn the art of entrepreneurship.
I was interested as a sort of young 14, 15-year-old about what was going on around the world. And I was inquisitive. And the Vietnamese War was raging. And it seemed to me, as it seemed to a lot of young people, a very unjust war, as most wars actually turn out to be. And I, like a lot of other people, wanted to campaign to try to stop it. There was no young person's magazine at the time. And it's quite strange, because I'm dyslexic, that I should feel that I can Who's dyslexic in this room? all the best people in the world are dyslexic. Sorry to the rest of you, but anyway. So being dyslexic, thinking that I could be an editor of a magazine, but anyway, I thought I could give it a shot. And so I decided to leave school and start a magazine a campaigning magazine to try to reform education and try to tackle issues like things like the Vietnamese War and the Biafran War and other wars that were going on at the time. I never thought I was becoming an entrepreneur. I don't think the word entrepreneur actually existed 50 years ago. In Britain, all businesses were run by governments, really. British Gas, right. British Coal, British Telecom, British Airways. So the word entrepreneur didn't really exist. But in starting this magazine, I had to make sure it survived. I didn't have any money, so I had to worry about printing and paper manufacturing and distribution and selling it, and that started taking up quite a lot of time. And the word survival was very important, because in those days you couldn't raise money to start your businesses. You had to sort of try to
start them.
Fund them from people wanting to buy advertising or buying copies of your magazine. And so I learned the art of being an entrepreneur by in the jungle trying to survive. And the magazine became my education, and it was a lot of fun, and one thing led on to another.
Rule number 8, be competitive.
Competition is good for everybody, and having a bigger competitor with a fat belly to prod makes it a lot more fun than if you just suddenly had a monopoly in a whole new industry. It makes you much more sleek of foot than I think if you were the only player in town.
Rule number 9, make a difference.
The only reason we would go into a new sector is if we felt it was being badly run by other people. So the reason we went into trains was the government were running trains. British Rail was dilapidated trains, a miserable service, and we just felt, we could go in, we could get fantastic new rail stock, we could motivate the staff, and we could make a big difference. And so we took over the busiest line in Britain, the West Coast Main Line, and we've gone from 8 million passengers to nearly 40 million passengers, and I think transformed the experience for people. In every new sector that we've gone into, we've seen a gaping gap in the market where the big guys have not been doing it very well, and where we can come in and shake up an industry.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is have fun.
You're very brave. Djokovic thinks that I can outdo Roger Federer. What about the jacket, first of all? And the shirt, the shoes, the trousers. And now we have to see about the serve. Are you ready? I think we nailed it. I'm going to have to ring up Federer and tell him I think we outdid him.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Richard Branson on how to be a good listener that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, where do you need to be a better delegator? Let me know. Put your answers down in the comments below. And if you made it this far in the video, you're still here watching, give me a hashtag believe down in the comments below. I want to celebrate you. We don't just watch videos here, we do something about it. So give me that believe in the comments below too.
I think a good leader has to be a really good listener. And I'm listening to fascinating people all the time. Not famous people, just, everybody has some expertise in something in life, and I get excited by so many new things.
If you want to see the top 10 I did on Warren Buffett, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I've gotten to paint my own painting in business on an unlimited canvas in a way. It's a different sort of place.